In this video today, guys, I wanted to tell you all about what is web hosting. It's going to be a very simple explanation of what is web hosting, and I'm also going to tell you about some things that I think you need to look for before getting started with any web host that's online today. If you guys are new here to this channel for learnernet.com, hit the subscribe button right below, along with the bell, guys, and any future videos that I upload, you'll be sure to receive them. Also, to show your support on this YouTube channel for LearnerNet, smash the like button, and that way other amazing people just like yourselves will be able to find this same video in YouTube search. So this video is going to be really geared for beginners, especially if you're new online, you've never created a website. I'm going to give you a simplified version of what is web hosting, and hopefully you'll be able to find the right web host to be able to launch your website today. So web hosting in short, guys, is basically, let's think about like your house or your apartment where you live at, okay? Obviously you have a certain amount of people that occupy that house. You have your electricity, you have your water, all of these resources and things that are consumed in your house itself. But what does your house actually sit on? Every house or apartment sits on land, right? Without the land, you can't build any house or any apartment, right? You guys are following me? And so with this very simple illustration, guys, it helps us to really appreciate what web hosting is. What web hosting is basically a computer where all of your data, your files, your images that appear on your website, this is where it actually lives online. So without web hosting, your website wouldn't be visible online. Does that make sense? And so you need really two things for any website to be launched. One, you need a domain name. What is a domain name? A domain name would be the actual address of your website online. In my case, it's learnernet.com. Doesn't have like any numbers or dashes in the actual domain name itself. You'll be able to select a domain name that it could be a .com, a .net, a .org, a .us, .biz. It could be of any different extension out there that you want to use to reserve your brand online, okay? Now, simply when people type in, like a visitor types in their browser, your actual domain name, your web hosting, or the server in this case, is going to redirect that visitor to your website itself. So it really doesn't matter if your end user is, I don't know, in the United States, they're in Asia, they're in Europe, they're in Africa, Antarctica, wherever it is that they're located, the server itself is going to redirect that individual within a few seconds back to your website itself. So that essentially is what web hosting is and a domain name is, the very simplified version, of that. Now, what you need to know is that there are tons of web hosting providers that are online, companies that provide web hosting services. Some of them are very inexpensive, while others are very expensive. Some have maybe some restricted or limited resources, where some may offer unlimited resources. So basically what you want to think about, guys, are what are your current needs? What do you need, right now? What I recommend for beginners to do is to get a web hosting provider that's inexpensive on the front end and the back end. And what I mean by that is that when you get started today with a web hosting provider, guys, you're going to learn that one, the web host is going to have a very low price that you can get started today. It's called an introductory price itself. It's very low. It might be like $5 or less, something like that. And when the web hosting actually renews, so each web hosting package that's offered to you, you can purchase it maybe for 1 year up front, 2 years, 3 years, and basically the more web hosting that you purchase, the more money that you'll save. It's kind of like if you're going to Costco's, Sam's, BJ's, just any wholesale place that sells things in bulk. When you buy more of it, you save more money. So that's kind of how web hosting works, right? You just need to have a simple web hosting package that provides what you need right now. If you're a beginner, you don't really need a lot of unlimited features. You just need something to be able to launch your website today. Now, over time, when you start to pump out, more content, promote your website online, you're going to get visitors. More and more visitors are going to start finding you online. And so with that, your website will require, over time, additional resources, maybe additional bandwidth, additional storage. If you're going to be creating more pages, uploading more images, your website over time will require more resources. And so with that, what you can do is just upgrade to like the next tier of the web hosting provider that you get started with today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop right below the top web hosting providers that you guys can select from. That way you can get started today. So that's basically, guys, how web hosting works. You need to get an affordable web hosting provider. Something else that you want to look for, guys, is reliability. Reliability is measured by uptime performance. Most web hosting providers start with maybe like a 99.9% uptime performance on their servers. And what this means is that essentially you may experience some type of like downtime with your website, maybe like a few hours of downtime itself, which is not good. Obviously, it means less exposure. And so I like to go with web hosting providers that have a higher uptime performance. Now, in some cases, depending on how high the uptime performance is, that might depend on the actual cost of the web hosting provider. So I think that right now, as a beginner, it's just recommended that you get started with like a basic plan itself, and then what you can do is just upgrade, over time as you need that. Okay. So again, affordability, reliability, very, very important, guys. Another thing that we want to talk about is customer support. A lot of web hosting providers have really great customer support, and others don't have really great customer support. Some companies that don't have really great customer support, but they're very, very popular, are Bluehost, HostGator, Domain.com. A lot of these companies that were previously owned by EIG, and now they all fall under a new brand that's called a Newfold Digital. They have a lot of like sister companies that fall under this umbrella, and they tend to not have really great customer support. And so what I'm going to do for you guys, again, I'm going to drop some top recommended web hosting providers right below, all of which have really, really great customer support, really, really fast, and they're very knowledgeable with WordPress and things like that. But again, essentially, if you have a question or a problem arises and you need help, you need to be able to get in contact with somebody either by phone, email, or chat, and really fast. That way they can resolve the issue that you were experiencing, right? Another thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about that's really important to me that I've learned to appreciate over the years is getting started with a web hosting provider that has strong measures for security. So we live in a world that's very unsecure, and what this means is that our websites, or websites in this case, are bombarded with things like malware, brood attacks, DDoS attacks, and hackers. And so you need a web hosting provider that takes proactive measures to protect your websites 24/7. That way they're not bombarded or taken over by malware and things of this nature. Now, some web hosting providers are fully managed, which means they'll fully update or automatically update your websites, like maybe with your themes, your plugins, your cores, PHPs, things like that. And they fall in the category of managed web hosting itself, and that tends to be a little bit more pricier. It's definitely worth the pricing, but it might be a little bit more pricier, especially for beginners. And so again, it's just recommended that with shared web hosting, you get started with them today. There are some shared web hosting providers that do perform automatic updates on software, cores, plugins, and things like that. I will drop those right below. That way you guys can check them out today. So again, essentially, guys, when you get started to create any blog, website, or even an e-commerce store online to create products, one, you're going to get a domain name. Some web hosting providers give it to you for free for your very first year, and then when it renews, you just have to pay for it. Typically, domain names, guys, may run about $15 to $20, give or take, depending on the domain name registrar itself. But again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down below web hosting providers that'll give you a domain name for free your very first year. That way, as a beginner online, you'll be able to save some additional money getting started today. And of course, web hosting itself, guys, for beginners, so you don't get confused. I mean, there's several different companies and providers that are out there, and I think what you need to think about first is really budget. Like, what's your budget? If you can afford, say, about $10 a month or less, most web hosting providers cost like that. But once you get started today, they'll have deep discounts that you can take advantage of. And what I recommend in general to any beginner online is to buy more web hosting up front. Again, when you do that, you'll be able to save a lot of money both on the front and back end, because what will happen essentially, guys, is once it renews, it's just going to go up. And so again, like when you go to a wholesale place like BJ's, Costco's, and all these places, when you purchase more food or items in bulk, you get it at a discounted rate. But if you just get like one, like maybe your local store, the item itself is more expensive, right? And so this is why I recommend with web hosting itself that you lock in for a longer period of time, guys. That way you'll save more money, okay? So what I wanted to do is talk briefly with you guys as beginners, that way you can understand and have an overall picture of what domains are, what is web hosting itself, and 4 major things that I think you should know about before you actually select a web hosting provider today, guys. So I hope this video was helpful for you. If it was, drop a comment right below. Don't forget to give this video a like, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and of course I hope you guys have much success in your endeavors of launching your website and also your business this year going forward. Check out the links right below, guys, that I have for you. It's going to provide you with some really nice discounts off your web hosting. That way you can save the most money today. Take care.